News. He's over there in London. All right. What we've been doing almost daily since this shutdown began is checking in with Nathan Dean. He's senior policy analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. He's down in D.C. It's his job to figure out what's going on down there on the Hill, but it's also his job to take a look at some of the regulatory aspects of D.C. And Nathan, I know you did some work on this recent M&A trade we saw in the banking business. Fifth Third is buying Comerica on a pretty big deal here, $10.9 billion. What are the regulators going to say about this, do you think?
So this is actually an interesting case because, over the Biden administration, we saw several bank deals be announced, and it took over a year. Think of U.S. Bancorp purchasing Union Bank out of California, Capital One and Discover. But the story is going to be different today with Fifth Third buying Comerica. Now, the biggest concern that the regulators have is the systemic risk of the new entity. And that generally is a threshold around $750 billion in assets where a bank becomes systemically risky. Under the new bank, you're looking at around $288 billion, so nowhere near that. So the regulators are going to look at that and they're going to say, okay, we're good. Other things they're going to look at is like Community Reinvestment Act, deposit shares. Are they going to be too concentrated in certain parts of the Midwest? And what I said in my note today is that any of those concerns that come up, if they do come up, it's easily resolved by the entity, by Fifth Third. They can just essentially deal fairly quickly with any of those concerns. So I think this deal is going to go forward from the Federal Reserve perspective. Management estimated that this would be closed by the first quarter of 2026. And I see no reason from the Federal Reserve why that wouldn't change.
Yeah, I would imagine, given that when Trump came into office, there was all this excitement in the banking industry, especially for M&A to really be loosened up, not just from a deal-making perspective, but within the industry itself, because the U.S. is extremely overbanked nationally. And so there's this idea that under the Trump administration, everyone would be able to look at deal making with new eyes. Nathan, talk to us a little bit about what's going on with the shutdown. I feel like there's no new progress and there's still very limited appetite in Congress for any kind of real negotiation, let alone a resolution.
Yeah, just since yesterday to today, the one thing we did see is we began to see a little bit more heated discord coming from policymakers on Capitol Hill. The Arizona delegation, for example, on the Democratic side, went out to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and essentially confronted him. We subsequently saw Representative Lawler from New York have a little heated debate with Representative Jeffries on the Democratic side, and this is where things are going at the moment. Now, Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York, just said this morning, and I'm paraphrasing here, that every day this gets better. The Republicans are using that word against him, but the idea here is that both sides are still sticking to their positions, and both sides think that they're in a winning position here because the Democrats look at the polling data that generally says that independents favor the Republicans as being the more party to blame here. Republicans look at the polling data and essentially says that the base is happy with where they're going, and neither side really has any incentive to negotiate. Now, where we go from here is the Senate is supposed to be out next week. I think they come back. The House Republicans are still going to be out. You are seeing a couple of House lawmakers on the Republican side saying maybe we should come back to Washington. So I think this just continues, and the pressure point that I've been telling my clients to watch out for is the October 15th pay date of the military. Government workers get paid on October 10th. I don't think that's going to be much of a pressure point, but when the military pay is involved, it's a little bit more of a uncomfortable conversation for those folks up on Capitol Hill. I'm not sure it gets resolved by the 15th. Because both sides right now are just saying, look, I'm just not going to negotiate. Right now, we're sitting fine.
It's just amazing. Answer for me, Scarlett and I were wondering, why did these guys get to go home when the government's closed?
It's just one of those things where I think, I actually don't really have a good answer for you on that one. The idea here is that, if you continue, it's like when my children fight in the room. If they stay in the room, they're just going to fight more and more. Maybe a break is good. And so, one of the things that I will say is that when the solution does come, it will most likely come from a bipartisan group of moderate senators that aren't involved in leadership. Senator Shaheen, Senator Collins, Senator Ossoff, Senator Warner, think of these bipartisan senators on the moderate side. They're the ones that eventually, I think, will come up with the solution. They'll present that solution to leadership, right, and leadership may run with the ball on that one.
All right, Nathan, thanks so much. Appreciate checking in with you again today.